All right. Happy Mother's Day. All right, yeah, okay. Nobody likes their mom. You all hate your moms. You're, yep. Oh man, happy Mother's Day. We're talking about masculinity on Mother's Day. So, sorry, I guess, I don't know. Let me do this. Let's put it this way. The whole point of the series is this. It's that if we follow Jesus as men, we need to become biblical men so that we can be godly men, so that we can be a help, so that we can be a leader, so that we can love and protect those that God has given us. So your Mother's Day gift today is that we are going to learn how to be a little bit better. Please be nice to us when we get home. How about that? Does that work? Look, at the end of the day, same thing as Logan, right? Like without the moms in my life, I'd be half the man that I am. I'd be less than half. I'd be horrible. I'd be awful. My mom's the best listener. My mama has bugged me and prayed for me and worried about me. And my wife she supports me and she loves me and she allows me to do the things that I do. And she is a great mother to our kids. And I don't think that the two of us are the only ones in the room that have that story. So thank you. All right. Look, Messiah masculinity. Here's the deal. The last week, it was the first week of the series, and the whole thing is like, what's the job? The job is to be like Jesus. Surprise! It's church. The job is to be like Jesus. That's if you want to be a good man, if you want to be a man that's worth following, if you want to be a man that's worth respecting, you want to be a man that leaves a legacy that lasts, you will follow Jesus, you will be like Jesus. The problem with that, and we talked about it last week, is that that's a high stinking bar. Right? Like you don't even have to be a Christian to believe that that's a high bar, because Jesus is, by atheist scholars, considered one of the three great sages of history. So like it's a high bar. What Jesus taught is a high bar. And there is no denying that a Christian ethic and following the teachings of Jesus is better. But as Christians, what we believe is that when we seek to be like Jesus, God gives us the grace and the power and the ability to be more than we are. And don't you just want for your family, for your wife, for your kids, for those that are around you, say you don't have wife and kids, for the people that interact with you, don't you just want to be more than you are? I mean, listen, dude, as a guy, like, I know how bad I suck, and all y'all do too. And the question that rings in your mind when you can't sleep at night is, am I good enough? Am I enough? Am I useful? Am I helpful? Do I stack up? Right? Like that's the drive that's in us. That's the thing that God put in us. Like, I mean, just think about it. Now we do participation trophies, but when you were a kid, a trophy meant you stacked up. That meant you did something. I got one trophy that I saved from my childhood because I was on the beginning edge of the participation trophies. I'm not totally soft, right? That was supposed to be funny. I guess it was too true. But a little, I got one trophy left from when I was a kid. It's probably in a box somewhere at my parents' house. It doesn't even have my name right on it. It says Roy Hilson. Thanks a lot, Coach. But it was Offensive Lineman of the Year in 8th grade. I kept it. Why? Because that year I stacked up. That's the thing. That's the worry. That's the fear. You are driven to achieve so that you are worthwhile. That's the way that we're made, right? And here's the thing. The problem is that the devil co-opts those desires within you and causes you to fail on the spiritual front because it's not the loudest. It's not the thing that screams the loudest. Your mortgage is loud. Your car payment is loud. The credit card bill is loud. Your kids are loud. Your wife is wonderful. Hey, it's Mother's Day. Like everything else is louder, right? and the spiritual tends to go by the wayside. But if we're going to be like Jesus, the primary battle is in the spiritual realm. The primary battle is a battle that you cannot wage with your hands, and you cannot outwork, and you cannot out-earn. It costs your soul. It's costly, it's heavy, it's real, but it's quiet and it's invisible. Like if you believe the Bible, you believe that there's a war that wages in the spiritual realm for the souls of men and women. And if that's true and you're the protector of your home, you're the provider of your home, then your job is to provide a safe space for the souls of your family to flourish and to protect them from what would hurt them. But we leave the door open. And so what we're doing is for the next 8 weeks, we're going to unpack what it looks like to be. How do I be like Jesus? How do I do that? How do I do that? Because you say, hey, be like Jesus. And it's like, okay, I guess. You keep preaching that. What would Jesus do? Be like Jesus. You keep preaching that. What does that even mean? How? And Jesus actually lays these things out for us really well. And so what we're going to do is we're going to unpack the Beatitudes. It's the very beginning of the Sermon on the Mount. And what the Beatitudes are is there are these there are these 8 characteristics that Jesus calls out. And they don't make any sense from a worldly standard. They just don't, because they're all upside down. It's not the way that normal people would see it. The first one is the one we're unpacking today, and it's blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. When we think about attributes that we want, and I don't think this is just exclusive to men, when we as human beings think about attributes that we want, poor is not an adjective we use. What does Jesus even mean here? But he starts the whole sermon. It's the greatest sermon in the Bible. He starts it with blessed are the poor in spirit. What the heck does that mean? Because if you just read it and you go, blessed are the poor in spirit, so I'm supposed to act like I'm poor and then I'll be blessed? Right? I'm supposed to act like I'm poor? Maybe what he means is like, if I act like I'm poor, then I'll be blessed. Because like, if I act like I'm poor, then I'll save money and then I'll have more money, then I'll be blessed. No, blessed are the poor in spirit. It's understanding the spiritual poverty that you have. It's understanding the depths of the depravity that lives in you, but having the wherewithal, the humility, and the submission to God not to explore those depths. It's understanding how much you need God, and in light of who he is and how great he is, how broken and needy you are. The blessed are the poor in spirit. Be a spiritual beggar. Every day, wake up and beg God for more of his power, more of his grace, more of his provision, more. Why? Because without more, I'm screwed. Right? And so what we're going to do is we're going to unpack the Beatitudes by pulling a story from the life of Jesus and unpacking Jesus and seeing if we can uncover a little bit deeper thoughts. So we're going to be in Matthew chapter 4, verse 1 through 11. And this is the temptation of Jesus. So what happens here in the Gospels is we don't get a whole lot of information on Jesus from birth to ministry. He's born, there's one story from when he's like 12, and then he's off to the races. And for us in a modern mindset, that feels like skimpy amounts of information. But you have to understand, in ancient histories, ancient biographies, you get the highlights. You get the most important points. And you get the most important points for a very practical reason. Paper was hard to come by, and all the books were written by hand. So they're going to give you the most important points so that you can memorize them and remember them. In our day and age, you can listen to somebody read an 800-page book to you and you never even have to look at it. That's not how it was then. And so this is how it sets up. So Jesus, what happens is in chapter 3, Jesus gets baptized by John the Baptist. And this is an act that Jesus does that he doesn't need to do because he's not a sinful man, but he does it to identify with us. And John the Baptist actually looks at him and he says, bro, you need to baptize me. And Jesus knows, no, this is what we're going to do, right? And so he gets baptized. And then just after that, he goes off into the wilderness and he's tempted by the devil. So verse 1, then Jesus was led by the Spirit into the wilderness to be tempted there by the devil. For 40 days and 40 nights he fasted and became very hungry. During that time, the devil came and said to him, "If you are the Son of God, tell these stones to become loaves of bread." But Jesus told him, "No, the scriptures say people do not live by bread alone, but by every word that comes from the mouth of God." Then the devil took him to the holy city, Jerusalem, to the highest point of the temple, and said, "If you are the Son of God, jump off. For the scriptures say he will order his angels to protect you, and they will hold you up in with their hands, so you won't even hurt your foot on a stone." Jesus responded, "The scriptures also say you must not test the Lord your God." Next, the devil took him to the peak of a very high mountain and showed him all the kingdoms of the world and their glory. "I will give it all to you," he said, "if you will kneel down and worship me." "Get out of here, Satan," Jesus told him. "For the scriptures say you must worship the Lord your God and serve him only." Then the devil went away and the angels came and took care of Jesus. So what we have here is Jesus being tested. Jesus is being tested. I used to think when I was younger that like God didn't really test you. Life was just hard and like God's not testing you because that seems arbitrary and mean of God. You know, like when people would be like, "I feel like God's testing me," I would be like, God's not a math teacher in the sky and he doesn't hate you that much. Math, I hate math. Anyway, right? And so that's the way that I felt. But the fact of the matter is you can't read the Bible and think God doesn't test you. He does. Every single hero in the Old Testament went through a long period of testing. It's their wilderness period. They went through it before they became who they became. And Jesus has to go through the very same testing. And this is the thing, is we don't like tests. We don't like tests because they give us anxiety. We don't like tests because they're hard. We don't like tests because we get things wrong. We don't like tests. Tests are awful. But tests are important. Tests are important because of what they show you. And so he goes into the wilderness and he's tempted. And we'll get into the temptations, but he's tempted in his flesh. He's tempted in his heart. He's tempted in his mind. He's tempted to deny the will of God and to go and do what it is he wants to do. You have to remember, Jesus is 100% man, 100% God. You're like, that's 200%. I don't know. It just is, right? And so while he is God, he does not give in to the depravity, but he possesses it because he's human. And so these temptations are real. And you have to understand, it's important that he passes this test. Why? Well, first of all, because if he doesn't, nothing works. But secondly, he's got to pass this test because down the road is Gethsemane. And in Gethsemane, he's tempted too. This test reveals, man, I gotta believe that this temptation, this test reveals to the man in Jesus the presence of God, of the God in him all the more. And the next tests aren't so hard. Well, that's not so far off from us. You know, we go through hard things, and there's when a young person goes through something hard, it's very dramatic. You know, and if you're older and you're not gracious, you'll be like, suck it up, bro. But there comes a point where you start to realize like the hardest thing you've ever been through is still the hardest thing you've ever been through. And just because it's easy to you doesn't mean it's easy to them. You grow the ability to withstand more by going through more. And so the first point is this: you got to learn to love the test. Like if you're going to lead well, if you're going to lead well in your family, if you're going to lead well in your community, if you're going to stand and represent Jesus, if you're going to be a spiritual leader, you have to learn to love the test. It's not, you got to understand, I'm not saying you got to learn to like it. And I'm not saying you got to learn to enjoy it. I'm not saying you got to savor it. It's like broccoli. You got to learn to love broccoli. You don't learn to love broccoli because it tastes good, because it doesn't. The only way you ever made broccoli taste good was with lots of salt and butter or cheese. Broccoli's nasty. It gives you gas. But you learn to love broccoli because it's healthy. You learn to love broccoli because it helps build you up. kind of, maybe. I don't know. You got to learn to love it. You got to learn to love the test. Why? You got to learn to love the test because of what it produces in you. It produces strength. It produces resolve. It produces experience. And the problem that we have, I think, when it comes to the spiritual side of it is we don't like the testing. There's a phrase in our culture, comparison is the thief of joy. I think this is, it's not really sexist to say, but it's 2025. So I think that's more applicable to women than it is to men. Because here's the thing, ladies, what happens with you is you use a magnifying glass, and when you look at other people, you magnify their virtue, and you see their virtue, and that's a great strength, because when you do that in your children, you do that in your husband, you do that in your family, you build them up. The problem is you turn that glass on yourselves, and you magnify your own flaws. And that's soul-sucking. That's awful. You feel terrible. Guys, we don't do that. That's why when it's late at night and your wife starts asking you all these questions and it's like this really built up, and then you go, yeah, I don't know this. And she's like, you don't care? It's like, but I guess I'm just not that introspective. It's not, we need a mirror. I heard a man say one time that every grown man should have a body length mirror that sits just outside of his shower so that every morning he is reminded of all that's wrong with him. Right? It'd be hard to be prideful. We need a mirror. Why? Because when we see what's broken, we're driven to fix it. When we see what's wrong, we're driven to get better. You are driven to achieve. You're driven to build. You're driven to be more, right? Achievement matters to you. That's why I freaking hate the participation trophies, because every little boy, what's the trophy for? I want to be the best. Listen, watch little kids play. Little girls play together and they might fight. Little boys compete. They hit each other and they keep score at like 2. That drive is important. And you gotta apply it to the spiritual test. Here's the cool part. If you can look upon what's broken inside of you, if you can develop the ability to look in the mirror and see what's broken inside of you, but also have the example to Jesus, you have a goal to shoot for and a list of everything you know that's wrong. But you got to get in the spiritual fight to do that. And just to be honest with you, what happens is we just don't. We just don't. So what does Jesus do here with this temptation? The first one is, hey, the devil comes up to him and he says, hey, if you're the Son of God, tell the stones to become bread. And Jesus says, man doesn't live on bread alone. You have to surrender the desires of your flesh, right? That's the beginning of the spiritual fight. That's the beginning of waging war. It starts with me. I can't help the people around me if I'm jacked up. And you have to surrender the desires of your flesh. The thing about it is it's not the drive that is the problem, it's the corruption of sin on the desire that's the problem. And when we talk about the desires of the flesh, there's 2 of them that are really simple, it's really obvious, it's lust and gluttony. Those are the ones, that's the corrupted side of it, right? Now, the drive to physical intimacy is beautiful, wonderful, awesome, until it gets sinful. When you keep it in Christ, when you keep it in line, when you do the right things, it builds the most important physical relationship in your life. It produces the little sources of joy and anger and no sleep I too acted like I was asleep last night when my youngest woke up. Happy Mother's Day. I'm a bad person, I guess. It gives you children. It produces intimacy in your marriage that, man, if you keep it pure, is unbreakable and can sustain you. But if you don't keep it in line, it destroys everything. Gluttony, this one's overlooked in the Christian faith. Like, just straight up it is. The drive to be able to eat a lot of food, that's good, right? Because without the drive to be able to eat a lot of food, people starve. Like, that doesn't sound right in our day and age because pretty much everybody has food and you can pretty much get food anywhere. But the fact of the matter is, as human beings, food is the first step to security, right? The problem, it's not bad to be able to provide that. The problem is when you provide it in abundance and consume it in abundance, and then it becomes a crutch, it becomes a problem, it becomes a thing that gets in your way. And you're like, yeah, dude, but like, don't fat shame me, bro. I see you, right? Listen, at the end of the day, this is a huge thing. How do you teach your children? How can you be an example of self-discipline when you are visually not self-disciplined? Like, as a pastor, weighed 325 pounds. You wanna know what sermon I didn't preach? Self-discipline. Because I'm not gonna look up here and be an example of hypocrisy to you on my face. Like literally on my face, you know? It matters. Dude, it's just food. Like, it's not that big a deal. No, it matters. First of all, you're not gonna be around as long. That's spiritual. Secondly, if you wanna actually be able to physically protect your household, you need to be able to breathe. And thirdly, when you fail habitually in that area, the failure bleeds over. Failure doesn't stay isolated. It matters. You have to surrender the desires of your flesh. And you know what? It's not just eating, by the way. We're gluttonous with alcohol. We're gluttonous with all sorts of things. We indulge in ways that we shouldn't indulge. Those ones I didn't cover because they're more obvious. It's really hard to lead anybody when you're drunk. It's really hard to do anything worthwhile when you're drunk. Surrender the desires of your flesh. You gotta understand, Jesus in this moment, 40 days and 40 nights of fasting. Bro's hungry. He's hungry. Like, you've never been that hungry. You wanna know how I know you've never been that hungry? Even if you did a 40-day fast, you are not a scrawny, ancient Middle Eastern man. You have a higher body fat content, I promise. Your body's got something to eat on. Bro's hungry. And that's the first temptation because it's the easiest one. You gotta surrender the desires of your flesh. The next thing, verse 5, then the devil took him to the holy city, Jerusalem, to the highest point of the temple and said, if you're the Son of God, jump off. For the scriptures say he will order his angels to protect you, and they will hold you up with their hands so you won't even hurt your foot on a stone. Jesus responded, the scriptures also say you must not put the Lord your God to the test. You have to surrender the desires of your heart. You have to understand the temptation here. This one is interesting. Look, as a man, what we want is to be respected. We want to achieve, and we want to be respected for the achievement. Like, probably more than we want to be loved, most of us. Like, it's the same, actually. It's not that we don't care about being loved. It's that if you don't respect me, you don't love me. Like, the same. Right? And it matters. And the temptation here with Jesus is that you have to, God came to earth, became man. Let's just unpack this, had to walk everywhere. God had to walk everywhere. He had to be a carpenter. He was God, and he had to be. Anybody ever do those types of things? There's a lot of math. And the only redeeming aspect of carpentry is hammering, because then you can break what you already screwed up. And then what's in front of him? The whole thing's disrespectful. The whole thing is beneath him. The whole concept is beneath him. He's about to go and call disciples. He's gonna have to gain influence with fishermen. Failed fishermen, by the way, because they never seem to be catching fish. He's gonna have to preach the truth. The truth that these people have been studying for 2,000 years and still haven't gotten right. He's gonna have to preach the truth and then get lectured by the Pharisees who are profiting off of the people while lying to them. He's gonna have to get lectured by those guys beneath him. And then after all of that, he's gonna have to be arrested by the Romans, pagans, don't even believe in him, betrayed by his own people, convicted of crimes he didn't commit, and die on a cross. All he has to do to not go through any of that is jump off the temple. Because God swooped down, the angels catch him, everybody would know. Everybody would know that he is God, and he wouldn't have to go through any of that. You have to surrender the desires of your heart. Your heart wants to be respected. Your heart wants to be valued in that way, to be told that you're worthwhile, to be told that you're useful. That's what it wants. And that's not always what it gets. Right? That's not always what it gets. I mean, just for real. I'll give you two stories. The first one, right after you get married, you're figuring out how to make life come together, right? And that is hard, because you have habits that she finds disgusting, and she has habits that you find annoying. And we want to act like it's all rainbows and butterflies and wonderful, but the fact of the matter is, you grew up in a house full of boys and you don't lift the toilet seat, and you leave your socks everywhere, and you put your shoes on the kitchen table. Gross. Yeah, that's gross, but I did it, okay? And then I'm not gonna, there's things. And early on when that was happening, I found is I would go to work and I would get respect and I would get praise. And then I'd come home and I would have done something wrong. Now, 100% fair for her to be upset with me. If the people who were praising me at work lived with me, they would also be upset with me. Right? But that desire for respect led me down this road of going, but they love me there. Those people like me. By the grace of God, I caught that. I caught that early on, and I was able to label that as evil. You know what that is? That's the devil using your drive to break you. That's what he tries to do with Jesus here. And he's probably tried to do it with you too, because I'm not alone. You go to work, you do a good job. They praise you for doing a good job. You come home and your kids are being crazy. They're not listening to you, and your wife is mad about your kids. And so now you're like, well, I was just awesome, and now I want to hide. Well, you don't get to. And you don't get to indulge in cheap calories at work either. It's not real. What matters is there at home. It's a long-term investment. The respect that you'll have in 20 years, 30 years is going to be worth far more than somebody saying something nice about you on your lunch break. Is to surrender the desires of your heart. Here's the flip side. When you do that, and when you start to when you realize that drive within you is going to get co-opted by the devil, and you keep it right, you keep it pure, God works and starts to bring things together and starts to make it work. And the dumb things that you need to be complimented on that will make you feel good about yourself, it actually happens. So check this out. I'm going to brag for like half a second. Everybody good? So on Monday, we did this workout. We have this small group, we all work out together, and then we eat food that erases the workout. That's pretty much the whole deal. Like, we worked out, and then we had taco bar, and they made fun of me because I put so much guac on it that I probably had a 2,000 calorie meal, and they were like, hey bro, gross. And I was like, shut up, I don't care. Anyway, so we did this workout, and in this workout, this is like dude 101, all right? We have a workout and you keep score on your workout. Why? Because you want to be able to push yourself, but also because I want to be the best, right? Well, I'm never the best. We got a friend named Dave and he's freaking Spartan, and but he wears short shorts, so whatever, loser. On Monday, I called him Queen Leonidas because he's got big biceps, but his shorts are like 7 inches long. So, but what happened was I went in the second group and Logan went in the first group. Now here's the thing. When it comes to endurance, the ability to sustain a high heart rate, the ability to endure just straight up pain, he beats me every time. Like, I have one skill, pick up something heavy, put it back down. That's it, right? He beats me every time. So in the workout, he got 280 reps. And I was like, that's my goal. So I went after it and I almost died, but I got 287, right? I was like, yes, never happens. I never get second place. That's first loser, but it's fine. It's still first loser. So it's not second loser. And I was pumped. Now I know full well if Logan had gone in my group and had something to shoot at, he'd have beat me, but that doesn't matter because that's not what happened. And he knows it too, which is why he's let me tell this story. But I was so excited. And I ran over to my wife like a 6-year-old. And I was like, I got second place. And she goes, good job. She did not care at all. She doesn't care. Dude, I lived on that. I lived on that for a week. When you submit the desires of your heart and you don't chase the sinful ones, God in his almighty power will grant the people around you the wisdom, the attentiveness to give you the cheap calories when you need it. Don't go looking for it where you don't belong. Next one. Verse 8. Next, the devil took him to the peak of a very high mountain and showed him all the kingdoms of the world and their glory. I will give it all to you, he said, if you kneel down and worship me. Get out of here, Satan, Jesus told him, for the scriptures say you must worship the Lord your God and serve him only. You have to surrender the desires of your mind. Jesus is 100% God and 100% man, and what man does is make his plans. You are wired to build things. You build things, you plan, you do it. Some of you plan a lot. You have a go bag in the back of your truck that has all sorts of things that you'll never need. You also, when you go on a trip, have printed directions, an atlas, and the GPS on your phone. And when your children go somewhere, you give them directions even though you know full well their phone will tell them how to get there. We make plans. We build things. What happens is our minds go to work and we make our plans, but life screws our plans up. And sometimes our plans aren't God's plans. And both of these things can be true. And sometimes they're true at the same time, and sometimes They're just not God's plans, and he's going to screw them up because he don't want you going where he don't want you to be. It just happens. We make our plans. Listen, Jesus knows the plan. He knows God's will. He knows how this is all going to go down. But at the same time, he's 100% man, and there are plans. And so the devil's trying to play into this. He's trying to play into this. It's absurd for Satan to look at God and say, I will give you all of this, right? That's absurd on its face. But why would he do it? Well, because it worked with Adam and Eve, right? It worked with Adam and Eve. We're going to go back to the old faithful. See how it goes. And that's the thing. Your mind will get you in trouble because you will build and build and build. And then when it falls apart, you'll be angry and you'll blame him. Or you'll build and build and build, and he'll let you go where he doesn't want you to go because he gives you free will. And then you go where he doesn't want you to go. And you think you've done something great, but all you've done is build your own kingdom. That's the thing. You have to surrender the desires of your mind. You have to let him have sovereignty over your plans. And so that's frustrating. Just straight up, that's frustrating. It's awful. One of the things how do I say this without sounding weird? And one of the things that I feel like God has allowed me to do is be somewhat visionary, be able to see where things are headed, right? But here's the thing. I'm wrong more than I'm right. I just happen to be right enough that it seems to work. And that's frustrating because there have been times where I'll go to make a plan and we're leading and we're going and then it just falls apart. And there was this one time I had 4 or 5 things go wrong, all in a row. Every time I said, I feel like that's where God's leading us, it would just break. And a couple of them super publicly. And somebody came up to me and they were like, hey, you have not said, I feel like that's where God's leading us in a long time. And just so we're clear, I want to go where God's leading, not where Robert's leading. So I need you to explain that to me. And I looked them straight in the face and I said, I don't know. What do you want me to say it and be wrong again? I don't know. I'm not sure I can lose again. What I've learned over time is that I have to submit my plans to him. It doesn't mean that you don't plan. It just means that you're okay when he has a different one. It doesn't mean that you don't head in that direction. It just means if he says turn right and you thought you were going to turn left, turn right. Really what it comes down to is being okay with being wrong and being humble enough not to tell God he is. He's never wrong. You're wrong a lot. Fair enough. Me too, by the way. With to surrender the desires of our heart. At the end of the day, this is what this is. If you want to be in the spiritual fight, it starts with surrender. You surrender to him. Why? Well, because the spiritual fight is invisible and it's constant. I don't know about you, but I'm bad with invisible things and I don't have the endurance for anything constant. So I have to surrender to him so that he can do with me what he will. And if I surrender to him and he can do with me what he will, then that will be good enough. That will make a difference. That will leave a legacy. That will be something. That will be enough. If you break it down, really all I've ever wanted to be is enough. It turns out the only way to be that is to surrender to God. It's counterintuitive. But you try long enough, you fail long enough, you break enough things, it starts to make sense. You have to understand how broken you are. You have to look on your own brokenness so that you can understand how much you need him. And until you understand how much you need him, you will not earnestly be in the spiritual fight on behalf of those that you love. And if you are not standing in that gap, who is? Probably all of you have a plan for how you would protect your home in the case of a problem or an invader or something like that. Probably you all have a plan for all sorts of things, but do you have a plan for how you will protect your home from the attacks of the enemy, for how you will protect your home from the spiritual battle that they are waging? Like, do you have a plan for that? Are you actively engaged in that? Do you pray for your wife? Do you pray for your kids? Do you pray for the people that God's given you? And like, I'm not trying to be mean. Like, I'm not. To be honest with you, this has been a place that I've been weak for a long time. In the last 3 months, 3 months? I think it's about 3 months. In the last 3 months or so, what happened, there was just a day that I was probably driving down the road. That's usually how it happens. I'm probably driving down the road. And God was just like, hey man, you need to fast. You need to fast for your family. And you need to pray for your family. And I'm not bragging. You want to know how you know I'm not bragging? I've had family for a while. And it just occurred to me. I'm telling you my failure. And so that he said that, and I'm like, okay, I guess I'll do it. So what I decided is on Monday, I'm not going to eat till mid-afternoon. I'm not telling you I don't eat till dinner, because that'd be a lie. But I'm going to fast breakfast, and I'm going to make it through lunch, and somewhere between 1 and 3, usually like 1:30, I'm going to eat. But when I would be eating lunch, I'm going to pray. And when I would be doing other things, I'm going to try to be quiet, so that when I lead into the prayer time, there's some focus. And here's the thing. It's not like you just got to be in the fight. And what the spiritual disciplines, I used to think that like people overplayed it. It was like people would talk about spiritual disciplines and I'd be like, man, you are so pious. Like just be a normal guy. But at the end of the day, like fasting, the other spiritual disciplines, solitude, that would be like silence, right? These things are healthy, these things are good, and these things actually help you commune with God and actually get you in the fight. So the fasting thing, doing the fasting thing, here's what happens. I don't eat. And I'm not telling you that every Monday is this wonderful spiritual experience. As a matter of fact, most Mondays suck. I'm tired, right? But what happens is I go without, and in going without, my mind starts to focus. Why? Well, because I have this signal of being hungry, and I'm not hungry all that much because I'm American, and I like food. So I'm not hungry all that much. And so I'll have this signal, and I'll be hungry. And what's happened in the last few weeks is that the hunger signals me to start thinking. It doesn't make me start thinking about what I'm going to eat. It makes me start thinking about what I need to pray about, what I need to be invested in. And so then I'm starting to focus. And then I recognize my need for God because like, dude, if I did this for 40 days, I'd die. Like, I can't do it without him. I can't do any of it without him. And then that starts to happen. And then there's some Mondays you pray and I pray and it's just like, okay. And there's some Mondays I pray and it's awesome. And there's some Mondays I sit there and I don't know what to say. And so I just pray, God, tell me what to pray for, I guess. Like that sounds weird. Like I'm going to pray to you. You tell me what to pray. Like if you said that to a normal person, they'd be like, you're a psycho. Tell me what to talk about with you. Like, no, weirdo. But then I do it and I start praying. And I'm like, dang, that's pretty good. I didn't even think of that. And listen, there's going to be things I pray for that never happen. There's going to be things I pray for that don't work. I'm going to get no's. And then there's going to be breakthrough. And there's going to be life change. You got to be in the fight. That's the thing. You lose fights. Some fights come to a draw. But you got to be in it. You got to be in the fight. The spiritual battle wages every day. And the enemy wants the hearts of your kids and your wife. You just going to lay down and take it? Doesn't seem very manly. Let's pray. God. Put a fire in us. Make us fighters. Don't let us forget the most important ones. Don't let us forget the spiritual war. Don't let us be asleep on the job. Put a fire in our souls that doesn't go out. Give us what we need when we need it. Don't let us run from the tests. Let us run to them. Let us pass them. When we fail them, let us see how we broke it, how we're messed up. Let us improve. Let us always be moving towards you, always moving towards Jesus. We love you and we thank you. Amen.